It's pretty exciting. Always sharing these tidbits and strategies for building your practice. I work with independent dentists solo practitioner, private practitioners who want to create more income and impact in their practice, because when your practice is more successful, it trickles through your family, it trickles through your employees, it trickles through your community. There's more things you can do and more people you can serve. And so that is always our intention in making this information available and sharing with you and doing this. And the topic today is catching better quality patients. And I'm going to use an analogy. I'm going to share you some stories about my dad, reminisce a little bit about my dad. He was not a dentist, but he knew a lot about catching. And, before I go live and share all this with you and give you all the details regarding that, I feel like I have to just kind of go through and give a little disclaimer first. I was trying to figure out how I was going to handle today. I'll be honest with you. We're doing an audio today because I am not in my studio. I am rehabbing. I had hip surgery last week and I tore the labrum on my left hip. And luckily I didn't have a replacement. I have reconstruction. And so I'm just sitting here in cryotherapy, and I've had to adjust my schedule this week. And, sometimes you just roll with the flow. But I was going to sit here and just pretend nothing was wrong. And I thought, no, I'm going to multitask and I'll be honest with you and share this as we go through the process. I'm talking about catching better patients. So, forgive me for being real comfortable here in my comfy clothes and my ice pack that's wrapped on my hip, and it's got the pressure and pressurized fluids going through it. Modern medicine. Terrific. I appreciate it. And it's been very comfortable going through it. But, as I alluded to at the beginning, I'm talking about catching better quality patients. I think the easiest way to put all this in perspective, is with the analogy. So when people come to me, I get this question all the time. They want patients. They have plenty of patients. Their schedule has there's some holes here and there, but they want better patients. They want better quality patients. They want patients who could stay, who can pay, who refer, who can accept the treatment plans that they need. They're tired of the limitations with people in the spectrum of thinking about insurance coverage. I only want to do with my insurance coverage, even though when they need something beyond that. The frustration and being able to give those services that you're well trained on, that you believe deeply in, and you're not being able to do your best quality dentistry for these people because for all kinds of reasons. And the mentality is, what do I need to say to these people to get them on board? Here's the reality. There's nothing you can say to them. There is absolutely nothing you can say to them because that is their personal preference. That's their personality. Maybe with enough time, with enough education, they'll come along. But you need to be giving your services and time to people who want your services. You're not meant to be everyone's dentist. And so it's like being in a bad relationship. How do I make, this person I'm dating a better spouse? I want to marry them potentially, but they're bad with money. They're a womanizer, a manizer. Is that even a word? They don't respect me. They're cruel to me. I need you to make them a better person. What you need to say is next. You need to be spending your time with people who want what you have to offer. And that's what we're talking about, catching better people, because there's enough fish in the sea. Here goes that analogy. There's enough fish in the pond. You just want to be fishing at the right place. So I want to share a story with you, as I alluded to, about my dear daddy, who was not a dentist, but he was an avid outdoorsman. And I think, growing up, I didn't appreciate his talents and skills for outdoors. I mean, he hunted, he trapped, he fished. He was just a really good outdoorsman. He found solace in nature. A lot of times it was just being there. It wasn't about the action. It was just being connected to nature in that way. And so we as a family were implored to do the same thing, even if we didn't like to do it. Now I will, full disclosure, I don't fish anymore. I don't go if someone's going hunting, I don't care. Goodbye. I don't do those things because I was burnt out on it. It was not my thing, but it was an opportunity to spend time with my dad that I would give anything in the world to get back now. And the lessons he taught me that I use in my business, in my life, and with my family and with my children, with others, I have those gifts from that time with him. And so he loved to fish. And so every weekend he would come in. This was our ritual. And this is what he burned me out on it. But he worked 5 days a week and he worked hard. And when weekends come, he wanted to play hard and do his own thing. So our job in the summer was to get the camp trailer ready on Friday, get it stocked, get the groceries in it, get it cleaned out, get everything packed up. Because when he rolled in at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, we were rolling out to the lake and we were going to be there until Sunday night. And for a lot of people, that's a wonderful thing. For my dad, that was peace and quiet. So when we went to the lake, we had a trailer, but we were not glamping the way you do now. It was a glorified tent. We did not have TV. We did not have radio. We had some battery lights. We had some cards that if we were good, we could play. And when it came time to fish, this man took it seriously. And he took on fishing and he studied it like nobody else in the world. He would go out and we would scout sites to where to fish until he found the right situation. He liked to fish for rainbow trout. Again, I don't eat fish anymore that way. I will have a piece of cod that's beer battered. I love that. Or fish tacos or some shrimp, but I do not eat trout anymore. And so he always wanted trout. So he would go to the best locations, the mountain locations to catch trout. He would get to the best water sources to bring the trout to the pond. He was looking for a certain size trout. He knew when people, fish and wildlife, were going to stalk it. He knew everything about it. He kept this log of what was going on. When he went out and fished, he had several different baits and he would try different baits and at different times. And he would log that to understand what the fish wanted, where they were biting, what time of the day, and what sizes like certain things. And so that was part of his research. And me and my brother, as his two fishing assistants, I guessed, because when we were growing up in New Mexico, kids under, I don't remember what age, maybe it was 13, you didn't have to have a fishing license. We were there to fish too, darn it. And so he would use all our, you can only have so many poles. I think you could have 2 poles per person. Actually, I don't even think that. Maybe you can only have 1 pole. So he could have 3 different tests going on at once. Me and my brother were test subjects. We were researchers for him. We were throwing stuff out and we sat there on the edge. We didn't have a beach. It was on the edge, the rocks or whatever it was. We didn't take chairs. We're sitting in the dirt and he wouldn't let us talk. He said, "You're scaring the fish." It was pure research. It was pure bliss for him. It was peace and quiet. It was breathing fresh air. It was being in nature, but he disguised it as fishing. And so he got really good at fishing because we did it so often and he did it so meticulously. And me and my brother became junior researchers on our own because what we learned, if we caught our limit, which was 8 trout and a certain size, we fell in that size. Once we got those, we were done for the day. So if my brother and I got down there and knew the right time to fish, the right bait to put out, the right spot on the pond, and got those 8 fish as quickly as possible to satisfy our dad, then we could go back and hike back to the camp trailer, even though it had no electronics, there was no phones, there was not even a TV antenna. We could go back to the campsite and we could take a nap or we could draw or we could play cards, but we didn't have to sit there and be quiet. We could at least talk to each other and my dad could be happy in his bliss down there fishing. And so we got really good at fishing. And that's how I learned how to be meticulous in that way. So when this analogy, when it comes to patience, this is the same meticulousness and process you need to think about it as far as your patience. Because when you're looking at patience, you want to know what bait for your ideal patient. Where did they hang out? What time's the best time to get them? All those things play into your ability to catch better quality patients. And for each of us, we are in a different pond. We're we're catching different types of fish. My dad was not a deep sea fisher with trying to get marlins thrown out in a freshwater pond. He knew what to use for his bait all along, and he was consistent along on those tracks. And so I find for most dental practices, you're using the wrong tool, you're in the wrong pond, and you have the wrong bait. And you are spending, like a lot of people in the fishing industry, a lot of money on junk that is not even appropriate for where you need to be. So for my dad, he had to say, hey, we're catching rainbow trout. You guys are out there throwing everything you got at the wall or at the pond or the ocean and hoping you catch something. When in reality, you need to sit down and say, who is my ideal fish? Who is my ideal patient prospect? Now, here's the good part about this too. You don't have to have just one type. So you might like catching rainbow trout and you might like salmon, but we'll need two different regimens to do that. And we're not going to use the same bait and we're not going to be at the same time and we're not going to say the same things when we're trying to attract those patients. So you have to be very specific and deliberate in your intentions and going out and catching the right ones. So, let's talk about niches when it comes to your patients. Do you like Invisalign patients? Well, then we need to be very specific in what we're saying about Invisalign. And even if you're an Invisalign patient as your prospect, is it adult Invisalign who needs retreatment? Or is it for the 14-year-old for a parent? Because those two patient types need to hear very different things. Those are two different fish. Even though it's the same pond, they need different bait. So what I say to a 46-year-old woman who has put her family first, and all the kids have had braces, and she has done the very best she can for them, but she's been secretly embarrassed by the relapse she's had, or her family maybe not afforded ortho, and she does not want to be a 46-year-old woman with a 10 grin, and she's going to go through this, and she wants to do it discreetly, but she wants to have that confidence about herself. I'm going to talk to her very differently. She's got different triggers versus somebody else who with their kids in junior high and high school, and they just want what everybody else has. Those are very different conversations. So even though I might do Invisalign and I might treat those two groups, I will not say that same marketing piece, social media piece. I'm going to be very discreet and talk to them differently. So that's why you have to understand you're catching the right fish, the right patient with that. Let's talk about other niches. Somebody who's missing a tooth versus somebody who's got a flimsy denture that won't stay in their mouth and they need a 4 on the floor denture retained. We're still using the same technology as far as an implant, but what I'm saying to that person is very different. I want them to be able to eat with confidence. Do they have loose fitting dentures? Are they embarrassed that they can't go out? Or is it I want the best option for my mouth. I don't want a bridge. I don't want you cutting up teeth around it. And I want to have something that's stable. And that's the best health option. I'm going to say different things in my social selling and my marketing message through social media. I will say different things in both of those approaches. Let's talk about, cosmetic patients. Cosmetic patients, again, if it's a divorced woman and she's about to see her ex-husband at their daughter's wedding, she's got a different set motivators than a 22-year-old who wants to look cute and pretty. No disqualifying, no putting down anybody but those are very different social messages. And so those triggers. And so I need to be hanging out, even though I'm talking about cosmetic dentistry, where that divorcee who's got a daughter's wedding coming up, I'm going to put my message somewhere different. And that's what we work with our clients on. We talk about getting the right message in the right place and going through. So I go back to that analogy with my dear dad. Love Alan J. Bratzel, miss you dearly. And it's like when he threw his hook in that pond and he knew the right side to be standing at 8 o'clock in the morning where the fish were going to be, it was like fishing in a barrel. And that's what happens when you understand catching better quality patients. It's like fishing in a barrel. You've got to have a conversation with yourself first. You're like, I'm going fishing, and you just drive out to the ocean and throw something in, you're not going to get it. You've got to be very specific and go through, and we got to start having some conversations about who I want to go after. And I'm talking sex. I'm talking about belief systems. Are they insurance motivated? Are they cash motivated? Is this something they're going to do with discretionary income? Is this something where I can make it happen if I can get care credit set up in there? There are certain types. And so in my practice, I didn't go after the insurance people because I didn't want to fight with the insurance people. My ideal clients, catching my better quality, was ranchers. I had a rural practice, and ranchers always came in when they said they would. They were very nice to my staff. They usually brought us nice things. They always were really pleasant. You saw them out in town. They wanted to make sure they said hello. I had to make sure my office accommodated them with my schedule. Did I have horse trailer parking? Because they're coming into town. They drove 3 hours to be there. They're going to do a lot of shopping while they're there. They've got to get some other stuff. I had to make sure my dental office accommodates them. I was hanging out where ranchers hanged out with my social media marketing, where my print marketing, associations that I was a part of, affiliations, power partners that I had, everything. I was there in their, not in a bad way, in their face. When they thought of a dentist, they thought of me because I was already there. And so when you want to catch these people, you want to catch these great patients, you've got to be where they're hanging out. And part of that, we can help you with that process. We can help you. That's what we do for our independent dentists. So if you're a solo practitioner and you really want to nail this down, we can get on a clarity call and find out what some of your ideal patients are. Kind of tease that out, and then we can build a plan to go after it and do it. We can work with you. We do VIP days where you can get more done in a day when we're going to streamline the process. It's all about getting stuff done, not learning, not talking, not discussing. It is about implementation. It is rubber on the road, one intensive day, plan it out. We do it together, and then we do some follow-ups afterwards to make sure you get things done. You're going to get more done in that one day than probably got done in the last year or two, because that's what we do about making that happen. So if you're interested in one of those clarity days, reach out. You can DM me and I can get you information, or you can go to my website at gingerbratzel.com and reach out that way. And it says client application. And it just asks some questions and make sure it's a good fit for you and your practice, a good fit about what we can get done in those days. And so, the ball's in your court. This is your time. We are almost at the end of the year. For a lot of practices, we're going to make their fourth quarter their biggest quarter of the year because we're being very deliberate and intentional with it. And with that momentum, we're going to carry it into 2024. So I appreciate you being here with me. These are fun to do. They're great to share. And let's talk about specifics for your practice. Let's talk about your fish. Let's talk about what bait we need and get that done. So I appreciate you. Thank you guys for listening. We will be with you again and check in later. Take care.